So there's Jake Brennan, your average human cargo hauler, minding his own business on the interstellar freighter Rusty Bolt, when a poorly secured crate decides today's the day it's going to make a break for freedom. The crate weighs about 300 pounds. Jake's arm happens to be in the way. The crate wins. Now, Jake looks down at his forearm, which is currently doing a pretty good impression of a partially open zipper, and says, "Aw, hell. That's gonna need stitches." This is apparently the wrong thing to say, because Ren, the ship's pilot, picture a 6-foot-tall parrot with anxiety issues, and you're halfway there, takes one look at the blood and starts shrieking in a frequency that probably violates several noise ordinances. He's dying, oh gods, the human is dying." "I'm not dying," Jake says, pressing his other hand against the wound. "It's just a cut." "Just a cut?" Ren's feathers are doing that thing where they puff up like he's been electrocuted. "I can see the inside parts. The inside parts are supposed to stay inside." Tumac, the ship's engineer, comes thundering down the corridor. He's a Grellian, which means he's built like a boulder learned to walk and decided to hit the gym. 8 feet of pure muscle and approximately 0 courage. He takes one look at Jake's arm and his face turns a color that probably doesn't exist on standard color wheels. "Captain," Tumac whispers into his communicator with all the calm of someone reporting the end of the universe. "The human is damaged." "How damaged?" Captain Liss's voice crackles back. "She's a Scolari, reptilian, practical, and currently very tired of her crew's nonsense. There's blood." "How much blood?" "Some blood." "Tumac, I swear by the 7 suns, if you don't give me actual information." "It's fine," Jake interrupts, raising his voice. "Captain, I just need the medical bay and maybe a bandage or something. This really isn't a big deal." There's a pause. Then, "Jake, are you dying?" "No, ma'am." "Are you going to die in the next 10 minutes?" "Not planning on it, no." "Then walk yourself to medical and try not to bleed on anything important." Liss out. Ren and Tumac exchange glances that clearly say they think their captain is insane for being this casual about visible human anatomy. They proceed to escort Jake to the medical bay like he's made of soap bubbles and negative thoughts, Ren fluttering ahead to warn Dr. Quilnix about the incoming catastrophic emergency. Doctor Quilnix is a Zenthari, which means 4 arms, smooth blue skin, and the kind of careful, methodical personality you want in someone who's responsible for keeping you alive. He looks up from his desk when they enter, sees Jake's arm, and all 4 hands immediately start moving in different directions, grabbing scanners, pulling up screens, retrieving equipment. "Sit," Quilnix orders, pointing at the examination table with 2 hands while the other 2 are already won, scanning Jake before he's even fully seated. "Explain what happened. Use small words. I am not familiar with human pain descriptors and I need accuracy, not bravado." "Crate fell on my arm," Jake says. "Cut it open. Probably needs stitches. Maybe some of that liquid bandage stuff if you've got it." Quilnix's eyes large, dark, and currently filled with what can only be described as medical horror flick, from the wound to his scanner and back again. "You are describing this injury as minor. I mean, yeah? It's not like I lost the arm or anything. The laceration is 4.7 inches long and reaches subcutaneous tissue layers." "Right. So, stitches." Quilnix makes a sound like a sigh and a prayer had a baby. "I will never understand your species." "Doctor." Quilnix waves 2 of his hands over the diagnostic scanner, while the other 2 start pulling up Jake's medical file on the holographic display. The scanner beeps. Then it beeps again. Then it makes a sound like it's questioning its own existence. "This cannot be correct," Quilnix mutters, tapping the scanner with one hand while squinting at the readout. "Your heart rate is 130 beats per standard minute." "Yeah, that sounds about right," Jake says. "Adrenaline, you know. Plus, I'm bleeding, so my body's probably freaking out a little." "A little?" Quilnix's voice is flat. "Your resting heart rate, according to this file, is 70 beats per minute. Give or take, yeah. That is faster than a Grellian Jan combat sprint cycle." "Is it?" Jake looks genuinely curious. "Huh, neat." Quilnix moves on, clearly hoping the next reading will make more sense. "It does not. Your blood pressure is 120/80. That's actually pretty good for me. The Zenthari average is 90/60. Your blood is moving through your body with the force of a hydraulic system. Well, I mean, it's got a lot of ground to cover. And your body temperature." Quilnix's voice is climbing now, all 4 hands gesturing at the display like he's arguing with it. "Your body temperature is 37.2 degrees standard. That is a fever. That is a dangerous fever for most species. The Avics run cooler than that when they are dead." Ren, who's been hovering near the doorway, makes a strangled noise. That's normal for humans, Jake says patiently. We run hot. It's kind of our thing. Quilnix sets down the scanner with all the careful precision of someone who's trying very hard not to throw something. He pulls up the Galactic Medical Database, enters human into the search field, and waits. The display loads. Then it keeps loading. Then it populates with what appears to be a document roughly the length of a religious text. At the top, in 17 different languages and 3 color-coded warning levels, is a header that reads, Extreme caution advised. Species physiology operates outside standard parameters. Conventional medical wisdom may not apply. Consult human. Medical specialist before proceeding with any treatment. Oh good, Quilnix says, his voice dripping with sarcasm. My favorite kind of patient file. The kind that starts with, Abandon all hope. He scrolls through the document. There are subsections. There are footnotes to the subsections. There are warnings about the footnotes. Let me see here, Quilnix reads aloud. Cardiovascular system operates at sustained pressures that would cause catastrophic failure in 94% of known species. Skeletal structure demonstrates inadvisable density to weight ratio. Muscular system capable of extreme exertion, followed by rapid recovery. Mechanism unknown. Immune system responds to foreign contaminants with excessive and occasionally self-destructive aggression. That last one's pretty accurate, Jake admits. I had strep throat once and my body tried to kill me about it. Digestive system, Quilnix continues, scrolling faster now. Capable of processing mild toxins, rotting, organic matter, and substances that should not be classified as food. Liver function exceeds recommended filtration capacity by orders of magnitude. Pain tolerance significantly higher than galactic median. Reasons unclear but suspected to be psychological damage masquerading as biology. Hey now, Jake protests. It says here. Quilnix looks up from the display, all 4 eyes focused on Jake with something between awe and accusation, that a human once consumed Xanthari industrial solvent and described it as, quote, not bad whiskey, needs ice. That wasn't me. Another human used Grelian military combat stimulants as, quote, pre-workout supplements. Bro, also not me. And a human on Station Kepler 7 ate a Scolari military ration, the kind designed to remain edible for 15 years in vacuum storage, and requested, quote, hot sauce because it's a little bland. Jake's quiet for a second. Okay, that one might have been me. But in my defense, it was bland. Quilnix closes, all 4 eyes, and takes a very long, very deep breath. I am a trained medical professional. I have been practicing xenobiology for 23 years. And I am telling you, human Jake Brennan, that your species should not be possible. And yet, Jake says, gesturing at himself with his non-injured arm, here I am, bleeding on your table, which we should probably do something about, by the way. Quilnix opens his eyes and looks at the wound again, then back at his database of horror. Right, yes. Treatment. I will figure something out, somehow, without killing you, probably. That's the spirit, Jake says. Doctor. Quilnix pulls up the pharmacological database with 2 hands, while the other 2 retrieve what looks like the galaxy's most paranoid medical kit. Every container has warning labels. Some have warning labels on top of other warning labels. One has a warning label that just says, seriously though, in 12 languages. All right, Quilnix says, selecting a small vial of warning labels. Clear liquid. Standard analgesic. This will manage your pain while I close the wound. He inputs Jake's approximate body mass into the dosage calculator. The calculator thinks about it for a moment, then flashes red and displays a skull symbol. That seems bad, Jake observes. The recommended dosage for your body weight would be 0.3 milliliters, Quilnix says slowly. The database is informing me that this amount would cause complete respiratory failure in humans within 4 minutes. Yeah, okay, but what's the database basing that on? Quilnix pulls up the citation. A human medical journal from your planet dated 2 standard years ago. Published by the Human Interspecies Medical Exchange Committee. Written by actual human doctors. Huh. Jake leans forward to look at the screen. 0.3 milliliters. What's that in human measurements? Approximately 6 drops. And that would kill me? According to your own species, medical professionals, yes. Jake starts. Laughing. It's not a polite laugh. It's the kind of laugh that makes the medical equipment nervous. 6 drops. Doc, that's 2 aspirin. I take 2 aspirin when I have a headache, and then I go for a jog. Aspirin? Quilnix's fingers fly across the database. Acetyl salicylic acid. mild, analgesic, and anti-inflammatory used by humans. He reads further. His face does something complicated. This is listed as toxic to Xanthari, Avix, Grelian, and 42 other species. Causes gastric bleeding and organ failure. Well, yeah, if you're not human. You consume this regularly? I mean, not regularly, just when stuff hurts. How often does stuff hurt? I don't know. Couple times a week? Quilnix sets down the vial and picks up another one. Fine, different approach. This is a Grelian painkiller. Very mild, used for minor discomfort. He runs the calculation. Another skull symbol. Also lethal. What's the dosage? 1 milliliter. Jake does some mental math. That's like 4 ibuprofen. Doc, I've taken 4 ibuprofen after a bad workout and then gone out for drinks. Why would you go for drinks after taking medication? To celebrate not being sore anymore. Quilnix cycles through 6 more medications. Every single one comes back with a skull symbol. He's now gone through the entire standard pain management pharmacopoeia, and everything is apparently a murder weapon when used on humans. This is impossible, Quilnix says, all 4 hands gesturing at the screens in frustration. How do your people manage pain? How do you perform surgery? How do you treat injuries at all? Well, Jake says, we kind of just use it anyway. The stuff you're saying would kill me, we just take it. Maybe we take less than you'd give, like Tumac, but we still take it. But the database says, the database is written by the most careful, most paranoid human doctors who've ever lived. Jake interrupts. The ones whose job is to make sure humans don't accidentally kill aliens by giving them our medicine. They're not writing those warnings for humans. They're writing them for you. That makes no sense. Look, Doc, I appreciate the caution, really. But I've done dumber stuff to my body than whatever's in those bottles. Last year I had food poisoning from gas station sushi and I just powered through it because I had a work deadline. The year before that I broke my toe and just taped it to the toe next to it and kept walking. And one time in college I drank something called a zombie, which is basically battery acid pretending to be a cocktail. And I had 3 of them. Why would you willingly poison yourself? It was a Tuesday and I was sad about a girl. Quilnix is quiet for a long moment, just staring at Jake with all 4 eyes. Finally, he speaks. I cannot treat you. I refuse. Every medication I have access to is flagged as potentially lethal to your species. If I administer anything and you die, it will cause a diplomatic incident. Earth will file complaints. There will be an investigation. My medical license will be reviewed. It will be a whole thing. So what? I just sit here and bleed? You are welcome to sit here and bleed in a supervised medical environment. Yes, Doc. I am sorry, Jake. Truly. But I took an oath. First, do no harm. And everything I could possibly do to you medically qualifies as harm according to every reputable source available to me. Jake looks at his arm, still bleeding steadily, then back at Quilnix. All right. Fine. New plan. You got a first aid kit on this ship? Of course. Quilnix retrieves a sleek white container and opens it. Inside are delicate tools that look like they're designed for watch repair. Antiseptic wipes in individual sealed packets, and bandages that appear to be made from silk and wishful thinking. Jake looks at the kit. Then he looks at Quilnix. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I need my kit. Your kit? My personal emergency kit. It's in my quarters. Can someone grab it for me? Quilnix nods at Ren, who's still lurking in the doorway. Ren flutters off, grateful for an excuse to leave. What exactly is in this kit of yours? Quilnix asks, suspicion creeping into his voice. Jake grins. It's not a reassuring grin. You'll see. Ren returns 3 minutes later carrying a battered metal box that looks like it survived at least 2 wars and possibly a house fire. It's covered in dents, scratches, and what might be old bloodstains. There's a piece of duct tape on the lid with Jake's stuff, do not touch, written in marker. This weighs more than it should, Ren says, setting it down on the medical table with visible relief. What do you keep in here, Rox? Supplies, Jake says, flipping open the lid. Dr. Quilnix peers inside and immediately regrets all of his life choices. The contents of Jake's emergency kit include a roll of duct tape, a tube of superglue, a bottle of brown liquid labeled whiskey, a needle and thread that look like they came from someone's grandmother's sewing kit, a lighter, several strips of cloth that might have once been a t-shirt, and a plastic bottle with a faded label that says, antibiotics, horse strength, do not use on humans. No, Quilnix says immediately. Absolutely not. I cannot allow you to. To what? Jake's already unscrewing the whiskey bottle. Patch myself up? Doc, you already said you won't treat me. So I'm treating myself. It's fine. I've done this before. When have you done this before? Montana, couple years back. Got between a mama bear and her cubs. She was not thrilled about it. A bear, Quilnix repeats faintly. You fought a bear. I didn't fight it. I ran. She just got a couple good swipes in before I made it to my truck. Jake takes a long drink from the whiskey bottle. Could have been worse. By now, Tumac has appeared in the doorway, drawn by morbid curiosity. Captain Liss's voice crackles over the intercom. Somebody want to tell me why the ship's biomonitors say we have a medical emergency in progress? It's fine, Captain, Jake calls out. Just doing some DIY medicine. Nothing to worry about. I am worried, Ren whispers. I am so worried. Jake pours whiskey directly onto the wound. The alcohol hits torn flesh and he hisses through his teeth but doesn't stop. Okay, that's the bad part done. That was not the bad part, Quilnix says. That was barely the beginning. You're right. Jake picks up the needle and thread. This is gonna be the annoying part. He holds the needle over the lighter flame for a few seconds, then threads it with the casual expertise of someone who's done this way too many times. Anybody squeamish should probably look away. Nobody looks away. They're all frozen in horrified fascination. Jake pinches the edges of the wound together with one hand and pushes the needle through his own skin with the other. Ren makes a sound like a tea kettle dying. Tumac, all 8 feet and 400 pounds of him, sways slightly and has to grab the doorframe for support. Human Jake, Quilnix says, and his voice has climbed about an octave. Please stop doing surgery on yourself in my medical bay. Not surgery, Jake grunts, pulling the thread through. Just basic field medicine. There's a difference. He takes another drink of whiskey, then continues stitching. His hands are steady despite the fact that he is literally sewing his own arm back together like it's a torn jacket. This is against every medical protocol in the known galaxy, Quilnix says, but he's also pulled out a scanner and is recording everything. For documentation purposes, he adds, in case I need to explain to the authorities how a human died in my medical bay. Not dying, Doc. Barely even hurt anymore. Whiskey's good stuff. You are using alcohol as anesthesia. Alcohol is anesthesia, also antiseptic, also social lubricant. Humans are very efficient with our substances. Jake ties off the first stitch and starts on the second. His technique is actually pretty good, Quilnix notes with professional horror. The stitches are even, properly spaced, and the right depth. Where did you learn to do this? Internet, Jake says. Watched a bunch of videos. Practiced on a pork chop. A pork chop. Dead pig meat. Good for practice because the texture's similar to… He pauses. You know what? You probably don't want the details. Tumac makes a whimpering sound and slides down the doorframe into a sitting position. His eyes are still open, but nobody's home. The big Grellian has officially fainted while sitting up. Tumac? Ren flutters over, patting the engineer's face with one wing. Tumac, stay with us. He's fine, Jake says, working on stitch number 4. Happens to people. My buddy Rick passed out the first time he saw me do this. Fell right off his bar stool. Gave himself a concussion. Had to drive him to the hospital, which was ironic because I was the one who was actually injured. Your species, Quilnix says, all 4 hands now holding scanners pointed at Jake from different angles, has a very strange definition of friendship. Yeah, we really do. Jake finishes the 6th stitch and examines his work. Not bad. Little crooked on this end, but it'll hold. He reaches for the superglue. What are you doing now? Sealing it. Glue goes over the stitches, keeps everything clean and watertight. That is not medical-grade adhesive. It's the same stuff, just cheaper and from a hardware store. Jake applies a thin line of superglue along the wound. Fun fact, superglue was actually used in the Vietnam War for exactly this purpose. Some soldier figured out it worked and boom, field medicine innovation. Vietnam War. Quilnix inputs into his database. Human conflict. Casualty count. Oh my gods. Yeah, humans are bad at getting along with each other, but we're great at figuring out creative ways to not die. Jake caps the glue and wraps a strip of like-fold cloth around his arm. There, good as new. That is not even remotely close to good as new. It's good as new enough. Jake takes a final drink from the whiskey bottle and holds it up to examine how much is left. Still got half left. That's a win. Captain Liss's voice crackles over the intercom again. Status report, now. All patched up, Captain, Jake says cheerfully. Ready to get back to work. There's a long pause. You stitched yourself up, didn't you? Yes, ma'am. Another pause. Good enough. Get back to work when you're able. And Jake? Yes, Captain? Stop breaking my crew's brains. Liss out. Jake's admiring his handiwork, and Quilnix is trying to process what he just witnessed when the ship's alarm system decides now would be a great time to add more chaos to everyone's day. Red lights start flashing, and a klaxon that sounds like a migraine having a panic attack fills the medical bay. Oh, what now? Jake mutters. Captain Liss's voice cuts through the alarm, and she does not sound happy. All crew to stations. We have a catastrophic failure in the water purification system. Repeat, water system failure. Do not consume anything from the ship's supply. Quilnix and Jake exchange glances and head for the bridge. Tumac is still sitting on the floor looking traumatized, so Ren helps him up, and they all stumble forward together like the galaxy's least prepared emergency response team. On the bridge, Captain Liss is pulling up diagnostics with her clawed hands, her reptilian face doing the Scolari equivalent of a very stressed frown. Engineering, talk to me. Tumac, who's finally recovered enough to remember he has a job, checks his tablet. His face goes from gray to grayish-white. Captain, the coolant line ruptured. Industrial coolant has contaminated the entire potable water supply. How much coolant? Approximately 42 liters mixed into 800 liters of water. Dilution ratio, Quilnix asks, his medical brain already calculating. About 5% concentration. Tumac pulls up the chemical composition. It's ethylene glycol-based. Sweet tasting, which makes it dangerous, because species will drink it before they realize it's poison, Liss finishes. Fatality rate, for Zinthari, Avix, and Grelian? Quilnix's voice is grim. 100% at this concentration. For Scolari, maybe 70%. It causes kidney failure, neurological damage, and cardiac arrest, and we have no antidote on board. Time to nearest station? 3 days at current speed, Ren says from the pilot's seat, his feathers flat against his body in distress. Liss does the math in her head. Our emergency water rations will last maybe 2 days for a crew of 5, and that's with severe rationing. We'll be a day short. Suggestions? We could put someone in stasis, Quilnix offers. Reduce consumption. Who? We need a pilot, an engineer to fix the system, a captain to make decisions, and a medic in case someone for much playing gets hurt. That leaves Liss looks at Jake. I'm not going in a freezer, Jake says immediately. Besides, I'm the cargo specialist. You need me to secure the load if we have to do any emergency maneuvers. It is a valid point, Tumac admits. So we're just going to slowly die of thirst? Ren's voice climbs higher with each word. This is it? This is how it ends? I always thought I'd die doing something heroic. Not because a pipe broke. Jake walks over to the water dispenser and fills a cup. Everyone watches in confused silence as he brings it to his nose and sniffs it. Jake, Quilnix says carefully. What are you doing? Checking something. Jake takes a small sip, swishes it around in his mouth like he's tasting wine, and swallows. What are you doing? This time it's all 4 crew members shouting in unison. Jake smacks his lips thoughtfully. Yeah, that's ethylene glycol, all right. Sweet, slightly oily texture. Probably about 5% like Tumac said. You just drank. Poison, Ren whispers. On purpose. I watched you do it. How are you identifying the concentration by taste? Quilnix has his scanner out, pointing it at Jake like he's waiting for him to drop dead. Worked in a garage for a couple years back on Earth. Antifreeze has a real distinctive taste. You learn to recognize it after the first accidental mouthful. The first accidental mouthful of antifreeze, Liss repeats slowly. Yeah, it happens more than you'd think in that line of work. Anyway, good news. This won't kill me. 4 aliens stare at him. Explain. Liss orders. Ethylene glycol is basically antifreeze, right? Humans can process it. I mean, it's not good for us, and if I chugged like a whole bottle I'd have problems. But at 5% dilution, my liver can handle that. Might give me a headache, but I'll live. Quilnix is already frantically searching the database. He's right. Sort of. Humans have a much higher tolerance for ethylene glycol than most species due to, their aggressive liver function. It says here that treatment for human ethylene glycol poisoning is alcohol consumption? Yep, Jake confirms. Alcohol keeps the glycol from breaking down into the stuff that actually kills you. Your liver processes the alcohol first, which gives your kidneys time to flush out the glycol. It's basically fighting poison with poison. That is the stupidest biological defense mechanism I have ever heard, Liz says. Yeah, well, it works. Look, here's what I'm thinking. I can test the water as Tumac fixes the purification system. I drink a cup every hour, see if I have any bad reactions. If I don't die. If? Ren squeaks. Then we know the water's safe enough for me, and that means more of the emergency rations for you guys. Plus, once Tumac gets the system fixed, I can keep testing the output to make sure it's clean. I'll be your quality control system. You want to volunteer to be a living toxin detector, Liz says. I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds bad. But yeah, basically. Quilnix runs calculations on his tablet. If Jake can safely consume the contaminated water, that extends our emergency rations by enough. We would make it to the station with half a day to spare. And if the human dies? Liz asks. Then we have a different problem, Quilnix admits. But we would still have the same amount of clean water, so our situation wouldn't be worse. Gee, thanks, Doc, Jake says. Liz looks at Jake for a long moment, her reptilian eyes unreadable. You're sure about this? Captain, I once drank from a garden hose behind a chemical plant because I was hungover and thirsty. I'll be fine. That doesn't make me feel better about this plan. Didn't make me feel great either, if I'm honest. But I survived. Jake fills another cup. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? You could die. All 4 aliens say simultaneously. Right. Besides that, 72 hours later, the Rusty Bolt limps into Station Kepler 7 with a functioning water purification system, a crew that's mildly dehydrated but alive, and one human who's consumed approximately 14 liters of contaminated water and describes the experience as, not great, but I've had worse hangovers. Jake's sitting in the medical bay again, this time for a post-crisis checkup. Dr. Quilnix is running every scan he has, twice, because he cannot accept that Jake is fine. Your kidney function is normal, Quilnix says, staring at the display like it personally offended him. Your liver enzymes are slightly elevated but within acceptable parameters. You have no neurological damage, no cardiac abnormalities. You drank poison for 3 days and you're fine. Told you, Jake says. Humans are hard to kill. This is not hard to kill. This is biological absurdity. Quilnix pulls up a report he's been writing. I am filing an official request with the Galactic Medical Council to recategorize human medical data. Oh yeah, what's the new category? I am requesting that human physiology be moved from caution advised to abandon all conventional medical knowledge and pray to whatever gods you find comforting. Jake laughs. That seems a little dramatic. You stitched your own arm closed with sewing supplies and hardware store glue, then voluntarily drank industrial coolant for 3 days. Dramatic is the minimum appropriate response. Captain Liss enters the medical bay, looking less stressed than she has in the past week. Jake, good work. You saved the crew. Just doing my job, Captain. Your job is cargo management, not human toxin filter. I'm versatile. Liss nods, then turns to Quilnix. Doctor, is he cleared for duty? Medically, yes. Psychologically, I have concerns about anyone who makes the decisions he makes. But that appears to be a species-wide condition rather than a personal deficiency. Great. Liss heads for the door, then pauses. Jake, we're taking on supplies before the next run. Put in your requests. Actually, Captain, I could really use some coffee. Haven't had any in like 4 days and I'm starting to feel it. Coffee is already on the supply list. Anything else? Nah, just coffee. Maybe the good stuff this time? Not the freeze-dried garbage from last station. Liss nods and leaves. Quilnix continues his scans, then pulls up the supply request on his tablet, out of idle curiosity. He sees the coffee order. His eyes go wide. Jake. Yeah, Doc. Your coffee request. The concentration you've specified here. What about it? Quilnix pulls up his pharmacological database and does a quick cross-reference. Then he does it again, certain he made an error. He didn't. This caffeine concentration. It's the same dosage as the pain medication I said would kill you. Jake shrugs. Yeah, sounds about right. I like my coffee strong. This is not strong. This is lethal. Doc, we've been over this. Your lethal and my lethal are very different things. But this is. Quilnix trails off, looking between his medical database and Jake's completely unconcerned face. This is your morning coffee amount. Well, yeah. Why? Quilnix closes all 4 eyes, opens them, closes them again. I need to file an amended report. Humans are not just biologically resilient. You are biologically insane. Little bit of column A, little bit of column B. You regularly consume for recreation, a stimulant dosage that would cause cardiac arrest in most species. I mean, I need it to wake up. Can't function without coffee. You can survive on contaminated water for 3 days, but you cannot function without a morning neurotoxin. When you say it like that, it sounds bad. Tumac's voice crackles over the intercom. Medical Bay, this is engineering. We've got the new water filters installed, and I'm running the first purification cycle. Can we get the human down here to test it? Do not call him the human, Quilnix says wearily. He has a name. Can we get Jake down here to drink potentially dangerous water and tell us if it's safe? That's better. Sort of. Quilnix looks at Jake. You are cleared for duty, including inexplicable water-tasting duty. Jake hops off the examination table, his self-stitched arm working perfectly fine. Awesome. Oh, hey Doc, one more thing. What? Thanks for not letting me die. I did not do anything. You did everything yourself, with supplies from a metal box that should be classified as a hazard. Yeah, but you were here for moral support. That counts. Quilnix watches Jake leave the medical bay, whistling some human tune that's probably about death, or drinking, or both. He turns back to his report and adds a final note. Recommendation: human crew members should be assigned a handler, a psychiatrist, and possibly an exorcist. They are the most terrifying species in the known galaxy, not because of superior technology or combat prowess, but because they are biologically and psychologically incapable of recognizing danger. They will drink poison, repair themselves with craft supplies, and consume neurotoxins for breakfast, all while maintaining that this is normal behavior. Approach with caution. Approach with fascination. Approach with the understanding that everything you know about medicine is probably wrong when humans are involved. But most importantly, never run out of their coffee. I suspect that is when they become truly dangerous. Ren appears in the doorway. Dr. Quilnix? Jake just drank the test water and said it tastes like water should. He also said it could use some of that poison we had before because it had more flavor. Should I be worried? Quilnix saves his report and sends it to the Galactic Medical Council with priority flagging. Yes, Ren. You should always be worried when humans are involved. I suspect that's just part of working with them. Is it worth it? Quilnix thinks about the past few days, the self-surgery, the poison drinking, the complete lack of regard for conventional biology. Then he thinks about how Jake saved all their lives without hesitation. Ask me again after I've had something strong to drink. The human offered me something called whiskey. Absolutely not. That's probably poison too. Somewhere in the cargo bay, Jake's already back at work, reorganizing containers with one freshly stitched arm and humming to himself, waiting for his coffee order to arrive. The rest of the galaxy might think humans are crazy. They're not wrong, but crazy gets the job done.